कुछ दिया विसार, अमर है राम भरत का प्यार, अमर है राम भरत का प्यार। इस धरती पर कभी न होगा अनुज भरत सा कोई, जो 14 वर्षों तक अपने राम की खातिर रोए। ऐसे सब भाई भाई के जुड़े हो मन के तार, अमर है राम भरत का प्यार, अमर है राम भरत का प्यार। राम भरत की गाथा होगी जब तक है संसार, अमर है राम भरत का प्यार, अमर है राम भरत का प्यार, अमर है राम भरत का प्यार।
Om. Om. Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaveryam Karvavahi Tejas Vinavati Tamas Tumavit Vishavahi. Om Shahanti Shahanti Shahanti. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So we got 2 weeks, and in these 2 weeks, there's a certain level of abstraction with respect to the self in us and our own personality, how we see ourselves and how we see the world. Something that Janki ji has done with you several times, but it's difficult to grasp fully. So we have to go through it again and again. And these visuals help us understand the abstract part of it. So there are 2 or 3 slides that we will go through. Be a little patient. And at the end of the class, if you have some questions, you're welcome to ask, because I'm in the academy, I have time. We can extend the class, those who wish to have something else, they are welcome to log in later on if it's recorded and hear the answers. But since there is limited time, we have to go through the whole slide. And many of the times the questions you have will be answered as we go through successive slides. There are 3 or 4 of them. So these are data points. And in each data point, there is a aspect which you know, and then there is that which enables you to understand all these things, which is the pure consciousness in you. So that you have to infer. See, I'm giving you a very simple example today. Today there are, the buzzword is electric cars. Everybody understands electric car. But when you say electric car, you understand something. What do you understand? There's electric car, there's electric locomotive, there's electric bus, there's electric, what is it called? Buggy, golf cart, there's, what is it called? Drone. Electric. When you hear electric car, what is it you understand?
Focus on environmentalism.
Forget it. We are talking philosophy here. You are talking about environment. Please, you must come to the point. We must come. When we make an example, we are treating an example that helps us understand the mystery we want to understand. When we talk about electric cars, we understand without a batting an eyelid that there is what is it called? There is no electricity in the car. That is the whole problem. There is no electricity in the bus. There is no electricity in the drone. Electricity is different, car is different. But without electricity, that electric car cannot function. This we understand very clearly, that car is just a machine. It has got no life. For that car to enliven itself, it requires electricity. So when we say electric car, it doesn't mean car has got electricity. It has got no car has got electricity. It's all zero. It is only a piece of machinery. This we understand. What is the extension? What is the extension of what we are trying to grasp? This is a very simple example, which we understand intuitively. The electricity is different, car is different. But electricity is the mover of the car, is that which animates the car, brings the car to life. Without electricity, car is lifeless. The car has got its own attributes and qualities that belong to the car, that belong to the quality of engineering that has gone into the car. Electricity got nothing to do with it. But when electricity animates that, its qualities and properties will show up of the car. The engineering aspect of it will show up. This we understand. What do you have to understand now?
Self is the enlivening principle.
Behind what?
Behind our actions.
The enlivening principle behind your entire personality.
Personality, yes.
Your
Body,
personality,
mind.
your person. Don't say body, mind, intellect, man. Take it easy, man. Don't jump the gun. All of us got different mindsets. All of us have, of course, body, mind, intellect, but all cars are not equal. Each car is unique unto itself. So our personality is unique unto itself, engineered by our own thoughts and actions, emotions, all that. But that which, all of this is insentient. What lends sentiency to our individual personality, what lends sentiency is the self in us. That is what you have to understand. But in the self, there is no quality. Self is neither sad nor happy nor nothing. That's part of you. But without the self in you, without the consciousness in you, the self is the sentiency principle that lends sentiency, life to your personality. All 3 components, the body, the mind, and the intellect. Just like electricity is the sentiency principle that lends sentiency to all cars, electric car. That's what you have to understand. That's the comparison. So point I'm making is, when we hear electric car, we automatically separate the two things and we understand the combination. We understand electricity got nothing to do with engineering. And engineering is engineering and nothing to do with it. It can't propel itself. So combination of engineering and electricity is the expression. This we understand. So this we have to understand now in our personality. Our personality is engineered by the quality and direction of thoughts and emotions that we have. It also determines the body. But by itself, it's non-functional, it's insentient, without life. That which enables it to start functioning is the self in us, pure consciousness. In the pure consciousness, there is no engineering. There is no thought, there is no quality, no nothing. But combination is required. So this separation and combination we have to now cognize in our personality. Just like the separation and combination you cognize in electric car because it's outside of you. This we have to cognize in our personality. So we are bringing the cognition of the self in us into our consciousness. That's what we are doing now. Unlike electricity which comes from outside, that comparison doesn't work. Electricity comes from outside. In our case, the empowering power comes from within us, from the self in us is the empowering element, is the sentiency element that lends sentiency to everything else. That is something we have to understand. Electricity comes from outside. The life-giving principle comes from within us. The spirit in our person, element of our personality. We are spirit and matter. And when that spirit elements this matter, this mind of ours, we become conscious of ourselves. Now our own consciousness functions at 3 levels. It functions at 3 levels. Arun Segal. Arun, can you say hello?
Yes,
Yeah.
Ali. Yes,
Arun, my friend, how many personalities you have?
Hello.
Yeah, I am asking you, across 24 hours you are Arun? In one day you spend 24 hours. No?
Yes, my name is Arun, but my personality keeps changing.
No. It's a simple boss. You yourself, Arun, is only functional when you are the waker. When you go to sleep, you assume a different personality.
Correct.
We assume that
Can't hear you. Cannot hear.
understanding you're not real has no relevance. What you understand is you are real, then that is not relevant. Don't jump the gun. Understanding you are not real has got it is not helping you. What will help you is to understand that when you are there, you are as convinced that you are Arjun as you are convinced you are Arjun now. Assuming you are Arjun in the dream. You understand? That is what is relevant. When you dreamt that you are Arjun is not Arjun, but he thought he is as solid as you believe you are solid now. That's what you have to understand. Then another time you thought you are Atul. Atul is neither Arjun nor Arun, but he thinks he is Atul standalone. There is nothing else. That's what you have to grasp, Arun. You understand? You've not thought about it, so I'm asking you to think about it now. And then when you go to sleep, the deep sleep through multiple personalities. If a person suffers from multiple personality disorder, what is it called? And I'm asking you psychological question. If a person goes through multiple personality disorder, what is it called?
Schizophrenic.
He is called schizophrenic, correct. Schizophrenic is one who believes is one thing at one time and disregards everything else, and then he believes another thing another time. Correct, schizophrenic. Each one of us is that aspect is now is that you yourself, after waking up, assert I am this, but I was that then, and I was Arjun then, I was Atul then. But actually, I am neither Atul nor Arjun, I am Arun, this is what you believe. So, this you must understand, that any given time, you assert whatever it is that you are aware of and you neglect everything else. This is what you have to understand. It's a thought for you. Yeah. So put up the, you have to put up slide number 2, four states of consciousness. I should have forewarned you, my fault, Omkar. There's slide 2, which says
slide number 2.
Yes, 4 states of consciousness.
Yes, sir.
So,
Yes, I have that, sir.
yeah, it's on your screen now. So each one of us is aware of this, but we have not brought it onto our conscious radar to register it correctly. But you are able to register it now, but you have to remember it. So we are not aware of the 4th state of consciousness, is pure consciousness, what is called Turiya. The masters who have transcended the body, transcended the equipments, they function in their spiritual center. So therefore, they know that they are the self. So therefore, they are able to relate effectively everywhere. So that is the 4th state. Pure consciousness is the state of your real self without the encumbrance of body, mind, intellect. Pure unto itself. So that state is a subjective experience which is beyond the mind, is outside of the mind. The mind cannot conceive it. It's a state of, it's the wavelength on which a self-realized person functions. You leave it alone, but this is what you have to understand. Just like the dreamer will become the waker to understand the truth about the dream state, you have to become the self to understand, to recognize what the self is. It's a subjective experience which is written there. From within the mind, there are 3 states of conditioned consciousness. So we are trapped by our mind. So when we are trapped by our mind, the mind itself recognizes 3 states. Pure consciousness conditioned by the fully conscious, subconscious, and unconscious mind generates these 3 states. Each is mutually exclusive of the other. So we know that now we are functioning through our fully conscious mind. We know that each one of us acknowledges that I am the waker. You should acknowledge that you are the waker. You acknowledge that this is the only thing there is. That's the mistake you're making. Because when you go to sleep, the dreamer in you dismisses this state, dismisses his state, and asserts that it is the dreamer experiencing his work. And when you go to deep sleep, the deep sleeper rejects the other 2 and says there is only nothing. It's only when you move from deep sleeper to dreamer that you recognize that I have actually only dreamt. And when you move from dreamer to waker, do you recognize that that was only a dream? So the higher states of consciousness can dismiss the lower states out of knowledge, and the lower state of consciousness dismisses the higher states out of ignorance. This is what is happening. But I'm reading. From within the mind, there are 3 states of conditioned consciousness. The pure consciousness animates the whole lot. The pure consciousness conditioned by the fully conscious, subconscious, and unconscious mind, generates these three states, each mutually exclusive of the other. So, just now, the waking state of consciousness is experienced by the fully conscious mind as the waker. Experiencing is waking work. Is happening now. When you go to sleep, you enter the dream state of consciousness. It is experienced by the subconscious mind. The mind which has disconnected from this body. Body is sleeping and the mind has gone on a picnic. So whatever that mind experiences then disconnected from this body which is sleeping now, whatever the mind experiences then, it says, I am the dreamer. That mind says, I am the dreamer experiencing my world, which is the dream world. This is a dream state of consciousness. And when the mind gets fatigued, it subsides into the Vasana bank. It's no longer manifest. So the unmanifest, unconscious mind experiences itself as a deep sleeper experiencing nothingness, experienced by the unconscious mind as nothingness. So these are data points which you can recognize now. And the notes are there. Put the notes, please. Notes are important. The deep sleeper cannot acknowledge the dreamer or the waker. He's in coma. Deep sleeper is in coma. Just like a person in coma cannot acknowledge what is happening around him. Deep sleep is the state of coma. At that point of time, the mind cannot recognize anything. Schumacher is in induced coma. So he's been asleep for the last so many years, but he is not able to recognize the world around him because his mind is in a subdued state. The body is only taking over, but he's in a state of coma. His mind is not able to recognize. It's a subdued state. So similarly, in deep sleep, mind only sees nothing. Deep sleeper cannot acknowledge the dreamer or the waker. Deep sleep is a state of pure ignorance. It knows nothing. I'm giving you a thought because you all know the analogy of the rope and the snake. So if you can't see the rope as a rope, the possibility is that you will see it as a snake. So ignorance of the rope is the cause of the snake. Non-apprehension of the rope is the cause of misapprehension of the snake. But it's a spontaneous equation. The moment you don't see the rope, you don't see nothing. The moment you don't see the rope, there is a substitute snake that takes place. The moment you don't see a post, there is a substitute ghost that takes place. So it's an instantaneous thing. But just because it's instantaneous doesn't mean it's not happening in two parts. The rope has to be there. The inability to see rope as rope, ignorance of rope will project the snake. It's a two-part exercise. In the case of deep sleep is a state of ignorance alone. You're ignorant of the self and you're ignorant of the world. So ignorance of the self produces this world. But deep sleep is a state of ignorance alone, non-apprehension alone. It's a very useful observation point. Deep sleep is state of ignorance alone, full stop. When you go out of deep sleep, the misapprehension of the dream state and deep sleep state, dream state and waking state occurs. For the self-realized person, he's always ensconced in Brahman, in Atman. So his deep sleeper cannot acknowledge the dreamer or the waker. Deep sleep state is a state of pure ignorance. Then he escalates. There are two possibilities. The mind kicks in. So the dreamer can acknowledge his experience as a deep sleeper. The dreamer also sleeps. So then he knows that he's in, after the dreamer sleeps and wakes up as the dreamer. So he knows that he's gone through deep sleep. But he cannot acknowledge the existence of the waker. His mental acuity is too small for him to understand he is actually the waker. But the dreamer can become the waker when his dream ego dissolves. Arun, when Arjun exhausts the desires that require his experience, when those desires are exhausted, he becomes Arun again, is it not? When the dreamer dissolves his ego, he becomes the waker. At that point of time, he understands the truth. Now you are the waker. So the waker can acknowledge his experience as dreamer and deep sleeper after waking up. After waking up, you understand the dream in its true light and you understand deep sleep in its true light. Deep sleeper, apparent truth is that there is nothing. The real truth is that from that nothingness, all your problems, you will wake up to your problems. The problems have just temporarily gone to bed. You wake up to the same personality. You know that after you wake up. Similarly, you know after you wake up that these dream experiences were real then, but after waking up, they were mere projections of my mind. This you know after waking up. The waker can acknowledge his experience as dreamer and deep sleeper after waking up, not while he's in them. But the waker has a acuity which the dreamer does not have. The waker has the subtle intellect, you and I. That is what we are trying to do now. We are trying to bring the subtle intellect into play. We are empowering it with observation. The waker can intuit, acknowledge the presence of the self beyond the body-mind intellect. Intuitively we know that there is a spirit element in us. We can't exactly capture it, but without it we cannot function. So that much we know. It cannot experience. Although it can intuit, there is a limitation. It cannot experience, that is, conceive or feel or perceive the unconditioned pure consciousness, his real self. He's there, he infers it is there. The fact that I'm talking to you, I can't talk unless pure consciousness animating my purpose. My body is alive. My body cannot be alive unless the pure consciousness is keeping it alive. I can infer it, but I can't capture what it is. That I can't do. But what can happen is the waker can become the self when his total ego is dissolved. Just like when the dreamer's ego is dissolved, he automatically becomes a waker, in which case everything about the dream becomes crystal clear. So, but that happens effortlessly. The waker has to become the self through tapas, through spiritual discipline. But when you do become the self, you will automatically understand the whole thing. That is the first level of data. I'm sorry, I can't chase the bird away, but he is deciding to sing. That which enables that bird to sing is the self in me. That which is enabling me to hear that bird sing is the self in me. The bird will come, it will go. Okay. If anybody has any question without wanting to know what it means, something, what is presented here, if there's question you ask, otherwise the implication of what is over here will come up as we go to the next slide.
Sir, one small question, sir.
Yes.
So the last line can become the self when his total ego is dissolved.
Yes.
Will it be only ego or ego and desire?
No, ego is the compound of your desires equal to your ego.
Oh, so
Your ego is your personality. You see, when we say ego, the exaggerated expression of ego is vanity.
Okay.
But your entire personality is also your ego. It's your personality. Ego is defined as memories of the past. So Christ had an ego, but he has a divine personality.
Okay.
Swamiji, as long as he's alive, still has ego. You follow?
Okay.
So when
So,
ego is dissolved,
but where does desire fit in? I'm not understanding that, sir.
the desire is in your mind, and the totality of your mind is your personality, which is your ego. Your ego is equal to your personality.
Okay, understood.
In this case, the ego is equal to your total personality.
Okay, sir, understood, sir.
When that ego is exaggerated, then you exaggerate that I, Arun. You follow? Everybody has got ego. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome. Okay, so now we go to the next slide. The next slide, my friend, is
I had a question.
yes.
It was written that the mind experiences the three states of consciousness.
Yes. By mind means collective. Mind means collective. It means body, mind, intellect, all.
Okay, the personality.
Yes. For simplicity, say as it is complicated, why complicate more?
Okay.
You say no, this fellow has got that mindset. When you say I have my mindset, your mindset, it means total in the context.
Yes.
A gambler has a gambler's mindset. It means including his body, mind, intellect, everything operates according to that mindset. That's what it means. You get it?
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Adi is Adi, Arjun is Arjun. What can you do? As Swamiji says, A is A, B is B, C is C. What can you do? So that is the ego. Okay?
Yes.
That's a mind. Yeah, it's a collective. It's a collective term in that context. Not in the, when we study the mind, it's different from intellect, but here is a collective. Okay? Now we go to slide 5. I'm building up step by step. Slide 5 is reflected rays of consciousness. Baby steps we are taking. Okay. So there, the trough, that gray part is your total mind, is a total thought pool. Total. Being mind, intellect, both is a thought pool. But by now, we are told, and you should appreciate that all thoughts per se they have their individual properties and characteristics. Each thought cluster has its own individualistic characteristic and quality. But each of them per se is without any life. So what animates it is the pure consciousness in you. So this slide is, as you know, light is pure. When light enters a reflecting medium, it becomes reflected. So the left-hand side is the incident ray, and the right-hand side is the reflected ray, written on the extreme. The incident ray impinges on the qualities of thoughts you have in your mind and appears to be conditioned by those thoughts, and the reflected ray reflects the quality and property of thoughts that you have on the right. So the incident ray, when it is always one, the incident ray is pure consciousness. It is the real, it is eternal, and it is immortal. Why it is real? Because it has got no birth and death. It is the only thing that stands the test of reality. It was always there. You will come, you will go, I will come, I will go, bodies will come, bodies will die. It's all irrelevant. The pure consciousness remains pristine. So therefore it is eternal, it is real, and it is immortal, one and the same thing. Whereas the conditioned identities that come are ever changing, they're ever bound, they're never free. They have a birth and death, and always they're insentient, without any life, on the right-hand side. So when the pure consciousness is the real I, you know that in the personality chart, there is your real personality is the Atman, and the conditioned personalities are the Sattva, Rajas, Tamas that make up your personality. So when the pure consciousness impinges on the thought cluster that makes a boy identify himself as a boy, when it impinges on that thought cluster, when your mindset was dominantly captured by the thoughts that made you believe you're a boy, at that point of time you said, I'm a boy. Then those thoughts subsided and a more mature level of thoughts came up and made you believe that I am a youth. So at that point you said, I am a youth. And then later on, like at my point, I say I am an old man, but I don't have the thoughts associated with being old. So although I'm physically old, I will say that I feel young, because the thoughts that I possess are those of they have not got the qualities and properties associated with old age. So I say I'm feeling fine. But whatever it is, whatever I am, I say I am that. You tell me I'm old, I say I'm 80, but I'm not old. Because my thoughts are not associated with what you associate 80-year-old with. And then this is important. At this point of time, I say I am the waker. But when I sleep, I will say I am the dreamer. The dreamer says I am the dreamer. And when I have deep sleep, you say I am the deep sleeper. So the question arises, how can all these things are different, all these different things, how can all of it have one identity? That is the point. So that which is the constant behind all identities, that which is eternal, immortal, unchanging, undeviating, constant behind all these identities which you have, which is ever free, never bound, always in a state of contentment. That is the self in you. But that, if you identify with that, you will become that. You are identifying with matter, you become the limitation, you suffer the limitations of matter. You identify with that, you become that. That is the exercise. Because you have a subtle intellect. That subtle intellect is capable of identifying with the self. That's what you have to understand. We are conscious. You're capable of identifying with the divinity within you. So we have to, and the scriptures help us to shift our focus and identify with this omnipotent power within us, without which we cannot function. When you identify with that, gradually you become that. And then when you identify with that, you dissociate yourself with hang-ups about this, your other personalities and this world. Because per se, they are lifeless. Even your child is lifeless by itself. It's only a body. It's like a robot. Robot can walk, talk, sleep. He can do what it wants. But if there is no power, it's only a piece of machinery. To animate the robot, you require electricity. So similarly, our body, our mind, what is it called? Our personality, walking, talking, sleeping, whatever it is, it has got no power of its own. To animate the quality of sleeping, walking, talking within you, within me, within your child, animate that is the self. The glory of the child's smile is the self is animating that, the enduring quality of that smile. In that smile, there is no life. This you must understand. You're fallen in love with robot. It will come, it will go. It's got no life. It's what you have to understand. So this is slide 1. With this, we go to a more visual slide, which is, you put it up. waker, dreamer, deep sleeper. When you have this, you can now visualize yourself in a more animated manner. It's coming on your screen.
Sorry, sir. Slide number which one?
One. It's a PowerPoint. You'll have to put it up as a PowerPoint.
Yes, sir. Which one? A number?
Number one, waker, dreamer.
Yeah. Okay, got it. Okay.
Thank you. Okay. So now this is a repetition, so it becomes a little easier. There are 4 states of consciousness. The highest, look on the left, the highest is the 4th state. This. We bow to the master and say, because masters tell us that you are actually the self. Without their endorsing this, whole thing is exercise in, is it so? Is it so? This world is unreal, it's merely a projection. Is it so? Somebody has to validate. So whoever has reached the self validates, yes, this is just another dream. So it's a validation of the master. That gives us the confidence to pursue it. So your real self is pure consciousness, which is beyond the mind, which is the 4th state, Turiya. That is our goal in life, to reach that state. Pure consciousness, beyond the mind, is real self. But at this point of time, we are intoxicated with our own mind. So we experience conditioned states depending on which wavelength of mind is being animated. So when our fully, look on the next slide. So when our fully conscious mind is animated, no, 1 minute, no, keep that on, keep it on. Mind functions at 3 levels: fully conscious mind, subconscious mind, unconscious mind. The fully conscious mind is recognized by the waker on your left. When the waker goes to sleep, subconscious mind comes into play. So that mind is recognized by the dreamer. And when you become unconscious, when the mind becomes unconscious of itself, all desires subside. There is no mind. So that state of no mind is recognized by you as deep sleep, mind functioning through nothingness, as it were, through your causal body. So look on the right. When the mind functions through your gross body, you recognize yourself as the waker. When the mind functions through the subtle body, you recognize yourself as the dreamer experiencing his world. The mind functions through the causal body, vasanas, you experience nothing. So we have fully conscious mind operates through the gross body, subconscious mind operates through the subtle body, and no mind operates through your causal body, vasana, ignorance. So this is something that as a waker you can recognize all. So we must bring it into our cognition. We must bring into our cognition. Once you bring into cognition, then next step will occur. Okay, put up the next one. Now a thinker, a person like you and me, who has been given this data, later on looks at his day or the continuity of days, because every day you go through dream, waking and deep sleep state. You look at this continuity of these days through the mirror of this edification, this spiritual edification on your screen just now. So waking state of consciousness. So my real self is always there. That is what is coming on your screen now. So when my real self animates, my fully conscious mind. Just now, I am the waker. Now next, my real self operating through me there. See, he wakes up on your right. He says, I'm the waker now. That's what this fellow is saying, because he's a Vedantin. He's woken up. Next. Then he goes through his day. So when he's asleep, so at that point of time, he says, I'm athlete because he's running. You can see he's a picture of good health. I'm athlete. As a waker, you are multiple things that define you. So one aspect that defines you, that I'm athlete. That's what he's saying. Next. So during the day, he's doing his stuff. So he says, I'm a successful businessman. As you can see, the Wall Street guy, I'm a successful businessman. It defines him. He's both. When his athletic desires animate themselves, athlete. And this guy, who is that guy? Musk is there. Elon Musk, who is the fellow who is athlete and businessman same time? Who is the fellow who is doing triathlon, this, that, and the other? He wants to do kickboxing. Who is the guy? He's putting his photo up, no? I'm asking the youngsters, nobody is answering.
It's not Elon Musk, sir.
Huh? No, not Musk. Musk, not Musk. The other fellow. The other fellow who is in Google, not Google. Other fellow in Microsoft.
Amazon?
He's done so many things, athletic things he's done. He gives picture of a body and all that. He's doing kickboxing. At the same time, he's on top of
Zuckerberg.
Huh?
Zuckerberg?
Zuckerberg, Mike Zuckerberg. Correct. So at one time he says, I'm athlete because he's a super fit guy. At the other time he says, I'm businessman. Correct. He says, I'm businessman. Right. Next one. Right. And he's also a family man. Happily married. So he's, I'm athlete, I'm businessman, I'm family man. The compound of that is my ego, my personality. It's a very, very simple thing. This is what he's saying. This is what you and I do according to what we believe we are. Okay. Next. Okay, so this is the whole picture. He wakes up when his athletic thoughts become active. He identifies as an athlete. When his business thoughts become active, he identifies as a businessman. Family thoughts become active, identifies as a family man. Compound is who I am. Next. Now the fellow goes to sleep. So the dream state of consciousness, the fully conscious mind loses its identity as the waker in order for the waker to go to sleep. This you know, you are not registered. In order to go to sleep, what has to happen? I am asking the class. What has to happen to the mind? If there is one waking thought left, can you go to sleep? I am asking the class. Why do you toss and turn in bed although you want to sleep? Nobody's answering.
So because one thought still remains, that's why.
Correct. So even if one thought keeps haunting you, that one song keeps playing in your mind, that song doesn't leave you, you can't go to sleep, or one resentment you have keeps playing, that resentment prevents you from going to sleep, or one excitement that you had, somebody told you are a great guy. So that excitement, like the fellow who wins the Wimbledon, he can't go to sleep because excitement prevents him from going to sleep. As long as one thought is there, can't go to sleep. But when that thought subsides, you go to sleep. The fully conscious mind loses its identity as a waker. Yeah, next slide. And the subconscious mind assumes an identity as a dreamer. So unless your mind loses its capacity to identify that you are the waker, it cannot acquire the identity that it is a dreamer. This is what you want to understand. It is the ignorance, it is your mind's loss of identity that you are the waker, causes it to create a false identity that I am the dreamer. Unless if you maintain identity that you are the waker, you cannot dream. The mind has to lose its capacity to identify with the waker as the waker for it to dream. The mind has to, Arun, your mind has to lose its identity that it is Arun for it to become Arjun. Arjun cannot come into play if Arun remembers he's Arun. You understand? Arun, capture it if you have not captured it before. It's something for you to think about.
Yeah.
So the subconscious mind assumes an identity as the dreamer. Now the self in me has animated my dream personality. Okay. Next. So in the dream, the experience is that he is invalid. He is on a wheelchair. It doesn't matter that actually he is athlete, but in the dream is a wheelchair, like King Arjuna, Janaka, I'm sorry. In the dream he was a beggar. When he woke up, he's a prince. So that's the question he asked, that when I was a beggar, there is no doubt that I am the beggar. And when I'm a prince, there is no doubt I'm the prince. The problem is which is which? Am I the prince dreaming that I was a beggar, or am I actually the beggar just now imagining that I am the prince? Is a big problem. I need to know what is which. So at this point of time, he deliberately put it opposite of what you are. He says, in one dream, he dreamt that he was invalid. Next. This is another dream. Obviously, one dream vanishes, the other dream comes. That's the nature of dreams. So one life finishes and another life comes up. So here you experience your life as a beggar, as a poor. I'm poor. So you can't solve this man's problem by saying you're only imagining, you're actually the multi-millionaire. He's like, don't waste my time. Have a heart for him. He's suffering from penury. Next. This everybody dreams. In the dream, you're a party animal, footloose and fancy free. But in actual real life, in the waking state, you're harnessed now by the fact that you have a family, you have to cramp your style. Now you got kids, you can't say and do what you want. But in the dream, you're footloose and fancy free. So you say, I'm party animal in the dream. Yes. Okay. So these are different dreams. This is an important point. Same dreamer is not having all three. In one dream, you say I am invalid. Another one, you say I am poor. Another one, you say I am party animal. But each one of them was real unto itself as long as it lasted. This is your audit. Yes. Next. Then go to deep sleep state of consciousness. Deep sleep state of consciousness, the self in you, percolating through your vasanas, experiences itself as nothingness, shanti, bliss, no sorrow. It is shanti, bliss, no sorrow. Now the fellow has woken up. This is you and me. This is what we are supposed to do. Now that you've woken up, you take a stock of your night, as it were. And having woken up, he's asking himself some questions. So he's pondering, he's contemplating there on your screen. Yes. So he's thinking about his dream after waking up. After waking up. My experience as a cripple, you must remember he's thinking about his dream. The dream is on your left. He's a cripple there. You can see it on your screen. He's crippled. My experience as a cripple was solid, real, self-evident. In my dream, I was a cripple and not an athlete. How solid, real, and self-evident was it? I'm asking class. How solid, real, and self-evident was it? I'm asking the class, please.
Very real, sir.
No, as real as what, my friend?
As in a waking state, sir.
Correct. Exactly. It is. Is there any difference in degree between the reality that he is what is it? The cripple's sense of being crippled, is it any different? Is that solidity of that sense that he's a cripple, is it any different from his belief that he's athlete when he woke up? It's identical. This is what you must capture. See, although the dream is flimsy and it evaporates, it doesn't mean that while it lasted, the solidity was not there. That's difficult to get, but you have to train yourself. That the dream, you remember the dream only 10-15 seconds and it evaporates. But while you are in the dream, for the 10 seconds, when you put flashback on the dream, you must understand the reality there is identical to the reality here. That's what he's saying. My experience as a cripple was solid. How solid? As solid as my experience as an athlete. Real. How real? As real as my experience as an athlete. How self-evident? As self-evident. Then what is the idea of asking me, am I athlete, not athlete? I know I'm athlete, but don't waste my time. So you're telling, he's saying, don't waste my time. What's the idea of saying, are you crippled, not crippled? I know I'm crippled. It's self-evident. As a cripple, I could never know that I am an athlete. It's not possible. It's not possible. What is possible? What is possible? As a cripple, you can't know that he's an athlete. What is possible?
Wake up.
Yeah, when you wake up, you will understand that I am athlete. Not, I was never was a cripple. Next one. Thinking about his dream after waking up. Now he's thinking about the next dream. When he's party animal. My experience, thinking about dream after, my experience as being carefree was as solid, real, self-evident. In my dream, I was unattached and carefree. I could never know that I now have a commitment as a father and a family person. Because in the dream, you're carefree. You have no responsibility as far as family is concerned. Now as a waker, I know I have responsibility. My experience as being carefree was only an imaginary projection of my mind. Sorry, did I miss this in the first slide? Go back to the first slide. I must have missed it. Go back to the first slide, at least. As a cripple, I could never know I am an athlete. I missed it. Put the next sentence. Alright, that next sentence is not there in that slide. Thinking about his dream after waking up. Yes.
No.
All right.
This is the one.
Okay, I'm sorry. He must have missed it. You have to tell him to correct it. Anyway, put the next slide on. Alright, it's there. You just took it off. Now be patient. Now, I know it is there. Now, as the waker, I know I am an athlete. My experience as a cripple was only an imaginary projection of my mind. This you know after waking up. This is the privilege of a waker because you are in a higher state of consciousness. So we cannot understand this world is unreal, my present position. That privilege you have to earn when you get to pure consciousness. At that point of time, that this becomes like another dream. Yeah, it was there. Thank you. Next one. Now party animal. So now he says that my experience as being carefree was only imaginary. So those days are over. I know that I've got responsibilities now. Yes. Next. The third one. Thinking about his dream after waking up. My experience as being poor was solid, real, and self-evident. In my dream, I was poor. I could never take solace in the fact I could never know I'm a successful businessman. I could never believe that I'm going to become, I am a businessman, I only have to wake up. You can't believe that. Now as a waker, I know I have a successful business. My experience as being poor was only an imaginary projection of my mind. Imaginary projection. It never was a reality. It's fake news. Fake news. Yes. Yes. Next. Waking state of consciousness. Okay, next. Thinking about his dream state. Remember that he's awake now. So he has the privilege of flashback. That's why it's waking state of consciousness. Thinking about his dreamless experience of deep sleep after waking up. In my deep sleep, I only experience the bliss, shanti of nothingness, the bliss of ignorance. No issues and no problems there in deep sleep. Yes. Now, as the waker, I know all my issues and problems were in the state of non-manifestation. All my issues and problems, their mind has become non-manifest, so my issues become non-manifest. When mind becomes active, issues become active. What I sleep as, I will wake up as. Issues I sleep with are the issues I wake up to. Anyone may keep it. Hello. Now as a waker, I know all my issues and problems were in the state of non-manifestation. It was a state of ignorance of my personality, a state of coma, experience of deep sleep. This is what you recognize after waking up. So when he has thought thus, then he reviews his experiences further. You put that up. Reflection and contemplation by the waker about his dream or his dreams or his experiences. No, 1 minute. So this reflections and contemplation is a checklist. That checklist is what we will do as the last bit next week. Because it's a, I don't know, 10, 15 point checklist. You can go through it. Omkar, what you can do is that checklist can come as a what you call a PDF also. No? We are going to put it. We are going to put it up as a PPT, but the whole thing is there also as a PDF. So people can go through it step by step, and we will run it through the class. So if those who want to review it can review it. They have 1 week to review it. Rethinking about this whole thing step by step. If you can capture that, a lot of traction you will. But for today, there is enough data. Now, if anybody has any question, you're welcome to ask. There are 2 or 3 important points you should capture. One is we cannot understand the meaning of this statement that ignorance of the self has produced your personality and the world. You can't understand that. But now you have understood that ignorance of the waker is the cause of the personality of the dreamer and his dream world. This you understand. So therefore, by intelligent extrapolation, you can relate to the fact that you are the self. Ignorance of that self is the cause of your personality now. And you can't capture what the self is, but the dreamer can become the waker. When the dreamer becomes the waker, you understood that the earlier thing was only illusion. So similarly, through these spiritual disciplines, you can eliminate desire. When you eliminate desire, mind is no longer needed. If mind is no longer needed, the default position is that you become the self. But to eliminate desire, you must have the yearning to experience the self. If you want to maintain the yearning to experience the self, you must discount the hunger to experience the world. The world has got nothing to offer. It has a birth and a death. It keeps you hostage to its limitation. Enough is enough. I've seen and done everything. There's nothing there. So therefore, even as you go through your experiences in life, you discount them. You treat them for what they are worth and don't revel in them. That's what Gita said. He says, the wise, all contact-born enjoyments are wounds of sorrow because they are beginning and end. The wise do not revel in them. You experience them for what they are worth. Whatever joy comes, thank you very much, pass. Whatever sorrow comes, thank you very much, pass. Enough is enough. I want to experience that. What do you want to experience? The pure consciousness in you that enables you to experience all this, without which you cannot experience anything. So that shift in mindset you have to create so that your subtle intellect becomes front and center in your life. To promote that, you have to think about these things in this manner. So this is one aspect, because you can't understand what is the meaning of ignorance of self produces this. You extrapolate it, it's not that difficult. You can't capture the self through your equipment by feeling and thought, but you can become the self. What on earth does that mean? The dreamer can become waker, you experience the wake. But dreamer becomes waker spontaneously. The waker cannot become the self spontaneously. No amount of wishing and talking and going to Balaji is going to make you wake up. You have to burn midnight oil, man. Self-effort is required, tapas is required, restraint is required, and you have to call the bluff of this world. Unless you call the bluff of this world, you remain in this world, you cannot wake up. So these two things you understand. Third thing you understand is when we go into deep sleep, there are no thoughts. Because there are no thoughts, you experience bliss and you experience infinitude, both in deep sleep, because there is no time element in deep sleep. So you're experiencing infinitude and you're experiencing bliss. So similarly, the self is infinite and it is ever blissful. But it is not the same as ignorance of deep sleep, but nevertheless it is Shanti. In that sense, it mimics eternal Shanti, deep sleep. It's a mimic, it's a joke, it's not the real thing, but it mimics. That is the gift of deep sleep. Spiritual gift of deep sleep. Physical gift of deep sleep is the restorative. Then when you examine the dream state demonstration of Maya, how something real, how something insubstantial can become real. You can't understand how this world can become unreal when it's actually so real. So the dream state demonstrates this magic, the magic of Maya. That insubstantial thought has become solid objects and living beings. Is there. So without the self in you, it can't be done. The dream state spiritually is a demonstration of Maya, and from a practical standpoint, it's a dustbin in which you remove undigested thought. So these are the gifts. That is enough mischief I've done. Now, if you've got any question, you can ask. And if there are no questions, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Very nice session, sir.
Very good.
Thank you, sir.